Today it's my number speaking to me. So I just got done skating and I came over to this other parking lot where there's less people around, and I looked at my phone and it was at 79%, and the radio or the clock in the car was at 626. Now those are my two big numbers because 626 was the time that I was born. So my whole birth chart was determined by that information as well as location. And then my birthday is July 9th, so that was relevant. And then after it changed in the car, I closed the screen on my phone for a minute, and then when I opened it back up, it was 6:26 on my phone. So obviously my clock is a little fast in the car, but whatever. So while I was skating, I was kind of thinking about my video the other day where I was talking about the military experience. Had somebody ask me or mention it yesterday after they said they watched one of my videos and didn't realize I was in the military. So we talked about that for a little bit, and then ever since I did that video where I talked about it, I've kind of been thinking about it, because obviously my military career was cut short because of my traumatic brain injury. But since that one happened at home, the military in no way was responsible for anything. But I've been thinking about how when I went into basic training, there's a heavy dose of stubbornness, of course, because, the drill sergeants don't want you to want to make you feel like shit and make sure they're sorting out the strong and the weak, of course, so you're going to hear all about, are you weak and blah, 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 and, any way they can kind of tear you down, and the claim is tear you down to build you up. Maybe. What happened for me was in basic training, the first day we were learning to march with our rifles, we were going over this one area that the pavement was kind of jacked up, and I caught my foot on like a part where the pavement was all jacked up and uneven, and when I did, I hit the buttstock of my rifle on my thigh and cracked it against, or the sight post against my head. And immediately, the drill sergeant that saw me was making fun of me, because you gotta pay attention to what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. The bitch of it was I was more pissed than anything, because it was just something to draw attention to me as much as anything. But, when I started getting made fun of for it, of course, I go in stubborn mode, and I knew it was hurting. But I was like, fuck it, keep going. And, I just kept marching on. And a couple minutes later, same drill sergeant looks at me and is like, holy fuck, Jones, you're bleeding, fall out. And it's like, yeah, I thought as much. So I had to fall out of the formation and take a battle buddy with me to go to the barracks and get cleaned up, because I had bled to the point where it was all down my collar because I was sweating. But because I was already getting made fun of and didn't want to be seen as weak, I didn't report it. So whatever. I knew it hurt. I knew there were some consequences from having cracked myself in the head with my rifle. It was right here on my temple. And I was stubborn. And so I didn't do anything about it. And in hindsight, In hindsight, I will not mess with head injuries and say if you have something stupid that happens or not stupid that happens, get that shit checked out because that can do some damage. But since I was stubborn and not going to let that, or I was going to try not to be seen as weak, that was like the thing I was fighting, and yet simultaneously the thing that stupid shit kept happening, and yeah. So the other one was toward the end of basic training. So we had to get any supplies we needed from the drill sergeants. And we had our little time where our different platoons would meet in like whatever barracks, and if you needed supplies, that was the time to ask for them, toilet paper, all that good stuff. And the drill sergeant that I mentioned was kind of like, reminded me a lot of my brother personality wise. I've said he was like a mean version of my brother. Is how I've told my parents about him. He was a baseball player, and I think he played in college, and he enjoyed pitching the toilet paper to whoever needed it. And of course, all the guys were eating it up. Like, because you're taking the toilet paper and not going to get hurt too bad, in theory. So it was one of the last times, it might have even been the last time, that we were there for this before Family Day. But I thought he was looking the other direction and going to pitch it to somebody on the other side of the room. He threw it, and I happened to be in the path that he was throwing it in. Like, he did not intend to throw it at me. There's no doubt in my mind that it was not intentional. However, it cracked me right in the head. Of course, I had my eye pro on, so it's like shoved my glasses against my head and made my eyes water. Of course, I don't know how fast his pitches are. It was pretty damn hard on my head. For that one, I knew it was not intentional. And I didn't want to get him in trouble as much as anything, so I didn't say anything on that one either. However, when I fell at home, and I'd already, those 2 concussions in basic training that I did not seek treatment for and should have. And when I fell at home and just basically made it all worse on that end. Nothing could be done. It wasn't the military's fault at that point. But, I've had several people that are like, oh, well, you should be able to get something from them for that. And it's like, no, because I didn't report it. So what? I'm going to have to jump through all these hoops to try to prove these things happened. And quite frankly, I'm pretty confident that as many people saw me get hit in the head with that roll of toilet paper, what would be their interpretation of my motivation to have anybody back me on that? Because I didn't want to get the drill sergeant in trouble when it happened, because he was one of everybody's favorites. And I knew it wasn't intentional, and I don't, if people aren't doing stuff intentionally, maybe Maybe somebody needs to talk to them. I don't know. It was something that it was fun for a big group of people. And there again, I didn't want to just like be the one to piss on everybody's party. But when I fell at home and then nothing could be done, it's just like, yeah, it was a mess. But I mentioned in my the one video, about how, just lost it again. Give me a second, it'll come back. About the annual training, when my foot hit the rock and fell, even though I did not trip on the rock, I just hit the rock. And my brain like quit on me. After that happened, I figured I needed to go get it checked out at that point. So I did go to, I went to the doctor, told him what happened, got a referral to the neurologist, and had a bunch of testing that I got to do after that. And the crazy thing was, when I went back to the neurologist after I'd had all the testing done, he's like, all right, well, how's work going? It's like, well, kind of between jobs at the time, because I had been, when I got the TBI, there's actually a series of negative synchronicities that happened after I got married. Supporting the fact that I should have been there. One of the things that happened was, I had this job at a temp agency and didn't love the job. Knew it was temporary and didn't want to be there anyway. But when my ex and I we actually met with the landlords for this house that we were going to rent. And we were in the middle of signing the paperwork, and my phone rang. Of course, it was on vibrate, so I was just like, I'll deal with it after we're done, because we were in the middle of something. So this was going into Easter weekend. I remember that because it was one of those, it's kind of a fuck you before the holiday. So it was, I got this phone call, and it ended up, I checked my messages after the landlords left, and it was somebody with the temp agency saying that my job was no longer there, which I didn't really care about at the time, other than we had just signed the lease on a house. So I told my husband that we would just max out the student loans to handle what needed to be handled, and then after the semester ended, then I would focus on finding a job. So then the semester ends. What was it? I want to say the semester ended on May 8th, and then on May 14th, I believe it was when I fell at home and got the traumatic brain injury. And so then, I couldn't go to my guard drills even, so there's that paycheck as well. And I tried going to a job interview after I got my head injury, and I know I made a terrible impression because I felt drunk. So that wasn't real successful either. I had an internship that I was supposed to be doing I was going to seminary. It was my first semester of school. and I was supposed to do this hospital internship over the summer. And then after I got the brain injury, it's like, I'm not going to be able to do that right now. So that got pushed back until the fall. Yeah. So, okay, there's a reason I went down that path. Oh, so I told the neurologist that I was kind of between jobs at the moment. And he said, oh, okay. I said, but I am going to grad school. And he says, how's that working out for you? I was just like, just the way he said it, I was like, not good. But what are we talking about? And he said that what the test had shown was that I was basically having like these seizures, like not the big kind where you see it. It was just in my head, like what I told him when he said that I was having these. I said, so that's basically like when my brain gets the hiccups, that's what's happening. He said, that's a good way to look at it. It's like, okay. I said, because I can be in the middle of talking to somebody and trail off and forget I was even speaking. So I know that's not exactly helpful. But yeah, grad school. So surprisingly, with grad school, the whole brain injury on that end, in a lot of ways, it seemed like it was a reset for me, because I had been, my life had basically taught me it was not okay to use my voice. It was not safe to use my voice. And whether that's getting made fun of or just pissing people off or whatever, it wasn't okay. My brain injury while in grad school taught me that if I wanted to pass grad school, I was going to have to ask questions. So I got a lot more interactive and would raise my hand to ask questions and would talk to teachers outside of class to try to figure things out. It was a hot mess, but I ended up making it through grad school, surprisingly, with the best GPA I ever had in my entire life. So it worked out, but at the same time, it's just thinking about how, there's like systems in place to basically make it so you don't try to stand up for yourself in the times that you should do something or say something. Because it was just as simple as getting made fun of in basic training because I tripped the first time and happened to crack myself in the head with the stupid rifle. And then the other one was a stray roll of toilet paper and fired at my head. And that was one. I went over to where my friends were at and sat there, and my eyes were watering. And it's just like, I am not okay. And that was before the big one. But yeah. It just try so hard to make it through and prove yourself, and then have stupid stuff that comes up that keeps you from trying to allow yourself to show any weakness, because, well, if you're weak, they're gonna come at you even harder. So yeah, I've just been thinking a lot about that, and yeah. where all that stuff even comes from, because there are a lot of structures that are in place, and a lot of it stems from religion and politics. And it's basically give you enough rope to hang yourself and we'll utilize you while you're valuable to us, and then we don't give a shit aside from that. So I guess I'm learning that you really have to stand up for yourself and, use your voice. Speak your truth, because most of the world doesn't give a shit about what you're dealing with, and they got their own problems to worry about, and the systems in place want to keep you oblivious to what's actually going on in the grand fuckery behind the scenes, and they aren't gonna help you. They will use the crap out of you until you're broken, and then leave you out homeless on the streets, or in line to want to commit suicide, and they don't care. They don't. And that's a whole nother tangent that I don't feel like I have the steam to continue on that right at the moment, but that was something I was thinking about while I was skating, and have been thinking about for the past few days, so I just kind of wanted to throw it out there. And yeah, that's where I'm going to call it for today. So as always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see you later.